So, a black dog, it's on the drum, obviously, so he's kind of rebranding.
Are you,
Oh, you saw my sign?
yeah. Oh, that is.
Yeah, local, yeah.
Honestly, the website gives you all the information.
Congratulations.
I wanna see the shot.
That's what I said.
Yeah. That's probably true. Back in the
I've learned to not sit as close to it.
So you have no worries.
Oh, the cameras?
Yeah.
You win it. Yeah, it keeps on.
Yeah.
We've got 1 minute.
See, yeah.
No wonder this was a
I don't know how that got started.
Looks like a Brady Bunch on there, you just slide out.
That's a good.
Ready's your first.
You ready? Call the meeting to order, and I'd like to welcome everyone here today. Looks like we're a little shy on people today, from what it normally is, but anyway, welcome and thank you for your commitment to show up. Can we go ahead and get a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Clinton, Mr. Martin,
Here, sir.
Mr. Fidzikowski,
Here.
and Mr. North,
Here.
Mr. Radford,
Here.
Mr. Mollison,
Here.
Ms. Boone Reynolds, Mayor Turk, Mr. Holliday,
Here.
Mr. Lyles,
Here.
Mr. Stovall, Mr. Price. Mr. Stewart isn't here, but his alternate
Kyle Kacho.
is here, thank you. Mr. Wagner,
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
All right, do we want to recognize the other ones in the room?
If you'd like to.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to let everybody identify themselves.
Megan Herman, Roanoke County.
Anthony Ford would be done.
Frank Dwyer, Regional Greenway Commission.
Nita McMillan, Town of Vinton. Allison Smith, Regional Commission.
Jonathan Stanson, Regional Commission.
Brian Hill with the Regional Commission.
Andrea Garden, Regional Commission. Elizabeth Elmore, Regional Commission.
Virginia Mullen, the Regional Commission. Christina Finch, Regional Commission.
Anyone else we haven't recognized?
Cody Sexton.
Cody Sexton,
Oh,
Town of
Cody.
Benton. He ignored me for years.
He used
No.
He used to be my favorite millennial. And he moved. Okay, this is Boone Reynolds.
Just arrived.
How are you?
Doing well, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Okay, agenda item number 3, consent agenda. Is there any question on that or any corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve item 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item number 3. Thank you. Number 4, I'd like to have a few things.
Take the vote.
I was getting ready to do that. Go ahead. Now,
All in favor?
All in favor?
I didn't say that.
You're so used to moving through
My
this thing.
partner walked in and said, "Good morning, something wrong today." All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. My apologies. Item number 4, I have a few things I'd like to share with you. Today, we're live streaming our meeting on the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission's Facebook page, part of our ongoing effort to improve public awareness of the important work undertaken by the Roanoke Valley Transportation Planning Organization. We want to remind anyone watching that they're always welcome to address the PTO via one of our public hearings on or in person during the public comment period at each meeting. And I want to welcome new Salem City Council member, Mr. Hunter Holliday, which is, there he is.
Yes, thank you.
Who will fill the unexpired term of Mr. Bill Jones on the Roanoke Valley TPO. Mr. Holliday, we welcome you to the commission and to the TPO, and we're glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
And we look forward to Mr. Holliday's participation in helping this body to make the best transportation decisions in the region. The bus riders of Roanoke Advocacy Group, who recently attended our TPO meetings, is organizing an event to support Developmental Disability Awareness Month this Saturday, March the 25th at Valley Metro's 3rd Street Station at 2 p.m. If anyone would like to attend that, it would be good. Participants will use board wheelchairs to ride the bus in an effort to further understand the opportunities and challenges for disabled users in the transit system. For more information, contact Andrea Garland.
Well, I do have more information.
Ma'am?
It's actually being postponed.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's lack of registration, so they're postponing it to July. I'm sorry, in reality.
Okay, well, just.
So you have, please do contact me if you want to participate.
So they'll reschedule that for April?
July.
Well, that was close, okay. I am both pleased, excuse me, I think about allergies, and sad to announce that Christina Finch, Sabrina, I've got all kind of names.
But he can say Pinchakowski.
I've just learned how to pronounce
Go
Pinchakowski. She's our Director of Transportation and an employee of over 12 years here at the Regional Commission. She'll be leaving to become the principal planner behind the National Capital Region's Transportation Plan for the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. You're getting up there now. Mrs. Finch, this last day will be, that she'll be with us will be April 7th. So please join me in wishing Christina well as she undertakes her new transportation adventure. And the posting for the Director of Transportation job description, as well as a Transportation Planner 2 position, are both on the Commission's website. And we're gonna miss you, I tell you. You've done an outstanding job here, and we could always count on you. And you are always so helpful to us, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. You're very welcome. I've learned so much here, and I'm definitely gonna miss working with all of you.
Well, you know, it's not but about, what, 3 hours drive, 4 hours drive to come back?
We're going to strain, ride the train.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was supposed to say. Riding through.
No, it can be.
But anyway, we're gonna miss you. Thank you for your, all the work you've done here. Okay, let's give her a big hand. All right. Agenda item number 5. We'll let Allison Stinnett come forward and talk to us about the STVG financial plan.
Okay, hello everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, so today I'm going to talk about the Surface Transportation Block Grant, or better known as STVG. First, we're going to talk about how, like our recap from January TPO meeting, the board released a public comment and public hearing for today's meeting regarding 5 projects requesting additional STVG funding. And just to say that generally, if you don't know what STVG is, it's an annual funding program that is outlined for a 6-year program, and it's a collaborative process that includes localities and VDOT and staff and community members. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. And we have a public engagement summary for the public comment period that you approved last meeting that we will be able to go through. And then we can go over the financial plan that was in the amended agenda that was sent out this week. So we want to proceed with this and then go into the financial plan. So that's it. Okay. So we had a public comment period for the STVG for the spring process. And it started on February the 16th and ended on March 1st. And this is the first landing page for the survey and who needs search requests. And this is general information about what STG is, and then about public comment period, and so. Okay, so to highlight the daily traffic, we accumulated 170 participants over the course of 14 days. And the highest day being the Saturday after the survey started. And we shared the survey with our stakeholders, survey takers list, and commissioners. And the survey had paid advertisements on Facebook for 2 weeks, and it was targeted the RVTPO zip codes that had a general radius. So there was a possibility that it could have reached other adjacent zip codes. And we can talk about the zip code breakdown later in the demographic information. So for this, we wanted to see where the participants were coming from. So we created 6 campaigns, and we saw that by far Facebook yielded the most participants. And so we had a lot of people that were interested, but around 170 completed it or at least participated in some form. So we asked 2 questions. We asked 2 questions in the survey, and this is question 1, and this was an optional question. We wanted it to serve more as informational, but people did answer, and that was great to have 2 points of data. So the question on this slide, asked, would the participants support the request of additional funding? So you can see we had 5 tabs, and each of those tabs at the top were project 1 to 5. It would have general background about what the project was, what they were requesting the money for, and then just to get a general idea of like what the cost estimate is, and just to get a greater idea, because some of these projects had more than just STG funding on it, and just to be as transparent as possible. So to dig down into the results of question 1, so the first project is the Walnut Avenue bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, and this one is phase 1, which is from 5th Street to this town city limit. And we received 149 responses, and 65% of the participants were supportive of the additional funding request. The next project in requesting funds were the Roanoke River Greenway through Explorer Park, and we received 150 responses, and 78 were supportive of the additional funding request. The third project is Walnut Avenue bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. This is phase 2, and it's from Wesley Avenue to 1st Street. And we had 142 responses, and 55% were in support of the additional funding requests. The fourth project is the Elizabeth Greenway. It received 141 responses with 46% of support for the additional funding requests. And then the fifth project is the Orange Market Park and Ride parking lot improvements. It received 137 responses with a 35% in support for additional funding requests. But this project also received the least amount of people responding to it on this question, so just to keep that into consideration. So for the second question, this is what the slide looks like. We wanted to do a interactive money game and asked participants to place coins on projects that they deemed to be priorities to them. So there were a total of 10 coins available to place among 6 options, the 5 projects and then an option to save for future projects. And each would require a set of number of points. So for instance, the Walnut Avenue phase 1 coin, we did it based on literal money, but some participants either took this exercise literally or, used the exact numbers 1, 7, 1, 5, or 8. Or they just placed how many coins they felt they want to just place on the project. So just to have that information as we go through it. So for the first project, there were 79 responses for the Walnut Avenue bicycle and pedestrian phase 1, and 62 people placed the 1 coin that was required, but then there were people that placed higher amounts. So just to show that there were participants that did place the 1 coin, but some thought, hey, maybe it deserved more. But so Roanoke River Greenway for Explore Park, this one had a lot of range. So a lot of people did, in fact, 44 people of the 90 that responded to this question, they gave it fully funding amount, which would be 7 points. So the Walnut Avenue bicycle and pedestrian accommodation phase 2 received 70 responses, and 56 placed enough to fully fund it, and then there were 14 that gave more than 1 to fully fund. And Elizabeth Greenway only received 55 responses, and I think because you had only 10 to choose from, maybe the ones that cost higher it made a good exercise for people to really show their priority. So this one, there was not that many that placed the 5 points that were required, but a lot of people did place some sort of funding priority on it. And it was the same way with the Arch Market Park and Ride parking lot improvements. This only had 39 responses, and you can see the range. But yes, there were many people that wanted to place money for later projects, which is, I guess, good. Sometimes people, they wanted to give just one or all. So that was interesting to see, just as a data point. So now we can talk about demographics, and of the participants that shared their information, 91 people shared their age, and this was interesting because it was pretty even across the board, except the fact that we did not have any participants share their information from the 18 to 24 age range, and that is something that we're working on, trying to target that audience better. And there were 98 people that responded with demographic information, and by far it was predominantly white, Caucasian, and then we also had some representation from the Asian American community, African American, Hispanic or Latino, Native American, Alaskan, or some form of other. So, and household income, 83 people provided their information about household income, and we had the greatest participation from 50 to 100 and 100 to 150. So, okay, so the zip codes, we had 91 people share their zip code information, and there were 18 different zip codes that responded to the survey. So I guess the radius is around what I was mentioning before. The highest response rate came from these 7 zip codes, with 24015 being the highest that responded their, not necessarily participated, but responded with their information. And a better representation of this. This is a heat map just to show the respondents. and their location, so better to understand where this information is coming from, the people that shared the information. So. Are there any questions?
Anyone have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I have one comment, and I shared this with Christina earlier. I just want to congratulate, this was probably the best survey I ever took that came from the TPO or the Regional Commission, so excellent job for you and everyone who put it together. I especially liked the coin game, so.
Yes, we have to create it.
Yeah, but very good work, thank you.
Or a bingo card in there, you'd be real happy with it. Okay, any other comments, questions, remarks? Okay, thank you.
Yes, of
It
course.
was a good report, and we appreciate that. Agenda item number 5,
Yes.
oh, we
I
have
have more to
yeah,
talk about, I'm sorry.
okay,
Not done with Allison just yet.
okay.
Okay, so, about going through the financial information for the SDG. So, we, in the amended packet, we shared the, updated financial plan. And, so that is where you can update that unless you would like for us to pull it out, but it's available, if need be. But just wanted to generally talk about new information that has arose from our last meeting. And VDOT informed staff about the return of funds from 2 different projects. The Roanoke River Greenway Eddy Avenue Bridge, which is returning $280,462. And the I-581 Exit 2 Interchange Study, which is returning $2,675. And so those projects are completed and financially closing out, and they're returning that money to the TPO. So they're also, on that same topic, there were 5 projects that were closed out financially and should be removed from the financial plan. And we can talk about that in the next section. But so I don't know what point we did the public hearing part.
Right,
Is it after the recommendation? I'm sorry.
I think, wait a minute. Okay, yeah, we can, you made the pressure, we can go into the public hearing now. So with that, I'll open the public hearing.
We do not have anyone signed up to speak.
Someone signed up to speak? Okay, then we close the public hearing. That was easy, wasn't it? Okay. And, okay, we don't. Okay. We do have a resolution on there. I hope you've had a chance to look at it. Do I need to read that, Mr.?
I don't believe we need to read the whole thing. Yeah, I don't believe, if everyone has a copy, has a
Okay.
chance to review the agenda packet, we just open, I'll take a motion to consider.
Okay, all right, well, we do have a resolution in there. It's on page 30. And does anyone have any questions on the resolution?
Mr. Chair, I have a comment, just, would it be possible just for Allison to go very quickly over the 3 recommendations from the TTC for which projects are receiving the increase in funding?
I think we can do that. Can you share that information with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Okay, so for the last TTC, they recommended the following updates about the increase of the projects that were requesting additional funding. So the TTC recommended that the increase of funding for the Walnut Avenue bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, phase 1, 5th Street to the city town limits, funding by $200,000 for a total of allocation of $2.268142. And then The second project would be the increase of the Walnut Avenue Bicycle and Pedestrian Accommodations Phase 2 from Wesley Avenue to First Street, funding by an extra $200,000 for a total allocation of $670,610. And the third project, the increase for the Roanoke River Greenway Thrift Sport Park, funding by $1,275,000 for a total of $4,295,308. So those are the recommendations.
Okay, any questions, any more questions on that?
I do. Allison, with the updated numbers from VDOT and remembering from the survey of having approximately $2 million available, so it looks like the TTC's recommendation for the TPO's consideration would increase funding by 1.675 million. Any idea how much it's not being allocated?
Yeah, it's on the financial plan,
Oh,
Cody.
okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so,
I didn't print that out, I apologize.
$778,892.
So that would essentially be in line with, from the survey, the folks who wanna hold some money back and for future consideration.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the,
Make motion.
we have a motion and a second to approve this, resolution. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Thank you, Alice. Agenda item number 6, we have, Ms. Finch, she's going to give that report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have the privilege to present to you the draft Unified Planning Work Program for next fiscal year. Although I'm sad, as Mr. Chair had announced earlier, I won't be actually participating in this work program. So you have very capable staff continuing on with these activities though. So the work program continues the planning emphasis areas that were given to all MPOs about 2 years ago that they would like to see weaved into all elements of MPO work. And those are stated on pages 3, or on your agenda packet is page 27 through page 7 of DPWP and page 31 of your agenda packet. So each of those 8 emphasis areas are things that are being woven into either our plans or just the nature of how we're trying to do work with stakeholders. I want to touch on some of the new activities that will be taking place next fiscal year. And as you know, the Roanoke region has a new transportation plan, which you adopted in January. And so a big focus for next year and really the next several years will be implementation of that new Roanoke Valley Transportation Plan. And working with stakeholders to identify the best possible solutions to address the region's priority transportation needs. The idea is that each year the staff will provide an annual report to let you know how progress is being made on addressing those priorities. I want to mention that the 2020 census data has now been made available, and staff will be working to understand the implications of that data on the study area for the Roanoke Valley, as well as any other implications that may come out of that. So that's going to be some work that is starting this fiscal year, but will be continuing next fiscal year, because that data really defines the geography that this region will be planning for in the future. In a little bit, you'll hear from Andrea about the regional travel survey that is being conducted this year. And what we're going to be looking at are the results of that regional travel survey and how that impacts the next iteration of the Roanoke Valley Transportation Plan in terms of the commuting patterns and how people are getting around the region. So there's time in the work program to digest that information and incorporate it into future planning. There's a lot in this document, so I'm just hitting the highlights. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those at the end. Transportation funding, as you know, is a big piece of the work here. And Allison just presented on the STVG program, and next fiscal year in September, this year, calendar year, there will be a new round of applications accepted for the STVG program. So that happens every other year. That also coincides with the next round of Smart Scale, in which pre-applications will be accepted a year from now. And then, as you'll be hearing at the end of this meeting, Brian will be sharing with you information about a new carbon reduction program. So that's not in the UPWP draft right now, but we'll be adding it so that it will be in the final version. But that's a new funding source that's become available to the MPO. And so managing that and allocating the funds through work with all of the stakeholders is something that will be a feature of next year. Wanted to mention under public transportation planning, as you know, the funds that support the MPO work here, 80% of that comes from FHWA and FTA. And so specific work related to transit and coordination with the transit agencies. The last onboard survey for the National Transit Database was done this fiscal year. And so each year after, we work with Valley Metro to analyze the data to understand where people are getting on and off the bus, which stops are best used. And so that work will continue in a slightly different way now that there are automatic passenger counters on the buses. I mentioned the regional travel survey that Andrea is working on. That information is also going to be feeding a commuter assistance program strategic plan. So Ride Solutions is the commuter assistance program in this region, and funds that come to the MPO will be used to support that strategic plan and how Ride Solutions operates over the next several years. So because the Roanoke Valley is a transportation management area, because the region has over 200,000 in its urbanized area, it is subject to lots of benefits, but also certain responsibilities and additional federal oversight. So every 4 years, representatives from Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration come and meet with the staff. They may meet with chair, vice chair, transit agencies, representatives from VDOT, to just see how is coordination, collaboration happening for the transportation planning and programming process here. And so the last federal planning certification review took place just at the beginning of the pandemic, so in early 2020. And so that 4-year mark is going to be next spring. So we expect that we'll have a team of folks coming and meeting with folks here, but then also there's a public element to that that asks the public, how well is the TPO doing with transportation planning and programming in this region? One of the big things that they always look at is the public participation plan. And so that's also why they're asking the public to get engaged with that piece. So what we have in the public participation plan right now is that every 3 years we'll look at what are the techniques that are working to engage the public in the TPO's work, where can we make improvements, and so a review of the TPO's public participation plan is scheduled for an update next year. So one, it's not a new phrase because it's been around for well over a decade, but complete streets planning is something that is making more of a name for itself in federal guidelines and in the work that they're asking TPOs to do. So we have combined 2 categories within the UPWP, which were previously corridors and area planning and bicycle and pedestrian planning, and captured the activities that were done under those two with a new focus on complete streets planning. And the benefit to that is that both FHWA and FTA have decided that for 2.5% of the federal allocation of dollars, no local match, no state match will be required for activities that are conducted for complete streets planning. So that's a benefit to the region there. Within that category, some of the new activities will be to continue working through the Roanoke Valley Transportation Plan process to identify solutions in that complete streets framework. Assisting the town of Vinton with a locally administered project for the Glade Creek Greenway Phase 3 PE, and then reviewing bus stop accessibility based off of the study that was done 10 years ago in coordination with that work that's being done to analyze the data for the National Transit Database Survey. The region has been fortunate to this year receive Safe Streets for All planning grants through the federal government, so several localities in the region are benefiting from that. And work will be coordinated with those localities along with the new bicycle safety action plan, bicycle plan update that will be done. It's already been started, but it will be continuing next year. And at the end of the UPWP, you'll see a page for all of the budget information. We are currently working through all of that now, and all of this will be completed and presented to you next month for your consideration and adoption. Do you have any questions on the data?
Any questions for Christina? No comments, questions? Okay, thank you very much. Our next agenda item will be agenda item 7, other business. Ms. Garland, we want to give you the floor. Regional Travel Study Project update.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Thank you for having me. I don't know that I have presented to you this year. So thank you for having me today. And yes, so as Christina mentioned, I'm gonna quickly talk to you about, inform you about a project I've been working on this year. It's the RVARC Regional Travel Survey. Can we do the next slide? Oh, I can do the next slide. Ah, there we go. So as a background, this survey is, the purpose of this survey is a little bit different. Allison just talked about this kind of survey efforts that we do to let people learn about projects and funding that we're already undergoing on our planning processes. This is really going into households, really understand what the travel perspectives and needs, trip satisfaction, awareness of programs that are in the region at the household level. So it's a different approach of what you have been used to hearing about surveys. We actually have a big goal of receiving at least 2,000 responses from across our region. And the survey responses, again, will be kind of our baseline to support the strategic planning for the commuter assistance program and the TDM program. This is actually a best practice for transportation demand management programs to account for, like some states call it the state of the commute in the regions. So we do this planning process every 3 or 4 years. So to assess for what are the needs on our households at the local level, and that way inform our planning processes therefore. So as I mentioned, so how are we gonna get 2,000 surveys? You know, that is a big goal. So we are working through, we actually have purchased over 20,000 randomized address-based mailing from all our census tracts within our region, and I'll show you a map later. And these are addresses that are validated in our region, household addresses. We are going to send mailers, actually direct mailing to this address, and asking people to take our survey. We are sending 1,000 mailers during the month of April. It's gonna be our survey pilot, where we're gonna send 1,000 letters to households in our region and asking them to take the survey, hopefully work through any glitches or any problems. Maybe there will be no problems, but if there were, it's better to find out sooner than before we send 20,000 mailers. During the month of May, we'll be sending 20,000, again, letters to our households in the region with the goal to receive 2,000 responses. I guess this goal is based on the assumption that you receive about 10% of what you put out. So if you send 20,000 letters, hopefully we get 10% back. Maybe we'll get more. That's what we're here. We will offer, we have built in incentives onto our budget, so we will have $100 gift cards to raffle. So if you take the survey and you volunteer your information, you can participate in that raffle. And this is kind of the best part about, or like I'm more excited about is this strategy that we have created to oversample a region to ensure we have representation from racially diverse and low-income households. And so that's, so you imagine you have 20,000 addresses, how are we gonna distribute them? So the first initial distribution goes by the census tract based on population. So our more denser areas will receive more mail invitations, and our less denser areas will receive less. However, if we go with that strategy alone, what's happening to our low-income marginal communities, especially our rural areas, those are areas that will get less attention. So we are oversampling all of those areas. And that is, based a bit of an equation. I'm not going to go through that, but it's, based on the environmental justice screening scores. So we have weighted census tracts where higher representation of Black, Indigenous, Latino, and low-income communities in our region are located. But also, moreover, and I want to actually flip to the map of this. How do I do that?
What are you trying to do?
Show the map.
Okay. I have to exit out. I have to stop share for a second.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
It's okay.
Easy. Okay. So I thought it would be easier to show this.
Hold on, I have to reshare for the Zoom. I need to bounce back.
So we'll stick with the map for now. I won't go there. Where's this? Okay, oh, there it is. So this map represents a region, as you can tell, and the darker colors represent our census tracts. So as you can, the darker the area represents where more weight is being given to the distribution of the mailers. What I wanted to point out is like really small in rural areas, we're actually guaranteed to get at least 1,000 mailers. Therefore, we will try to receive at least 100 responses from counties like Drake County, Covington, Covington City, and Clifton Forge. On our urbanized areas, which is what is of interest of you right here, as you can see, hopefully, the representation of the darker colors in Salem, Roanoke City, Roanoke County. If you are seeing this, it really represents the areas that will have more minorities to oversample those communities by anywhere between 35 to 45% more surveys sent them. So we'll be taking away from other areas to send that. And what am I asking today? I really just want to inform you about this effort, because once we send 20,000 letters to our community, it's more likely that somebody you work with, you might even receive a letter, somebody and this is going to be a letter coming from the regional commission asking people to go to a link, take a survey.
You know, I want you to give you the information, be informed, so you can relay this information to your members of your community. We would also be making an effort, so this is not gonna be a survey that we're gonna put a post on Facebook and send emails about people to, you know, take the survey. This is really being very targeted to our population households. However, if we identify communities where we really, like for instance, the Latino community, we really want to work with the Latino community, perhaps we'll reach out to Latinas Network and say, you have a which is a community-based organization. Do you have a way to target this community? We might share the link with them so then they can distribute it among their communities. So if you have interest or recognize a community-based organization in your locality that you would like us to include in an outreach program, please let me know. I'm not leaving this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send you this information via email. We'll have a landing page with this information, but again, it's just for you to be our advocate and vouch for us once you hear in the community people that are receiving this papers. Questions?
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Andrea? Yes, sir.
Andrea, the mailer you're gonna send out, is it gonna have a link back to a visual response?
Yes, so we have, that's a good question. Thank you for asking that question. Yes, the mailer will have what we call a QR code,
Yeah.
so you can link to the response. However, and we'll also have our contact information. So if somebody wants for us to mail them the survey, we will mail the paper survey, and that information will be in the letter. We also have somebody wants to just call us and take the survey over the phone, we can do that. But we will have, and the survey will also be available in Spanish.
Okay, and so it won't be a return envelope with a stamp on it to send?
If you request a paper survey, we will send you a paper survey to your address, and it will have a way that you just fold it and put it in the mail. Okay. So it will have a return mail. You will just take the survey and use 18 by 11 by 17 fold out, and you can fold it to another. Okay. So.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Along the same lines of what Mr. Radford asked about, we have a lot of rural areas in the county that don't have internet, or people just, either you can't get it or people can't afford it. So we typically mail out the paper surveys and say, you can also take this online. So I think you might get a better response rate that way, other than saying like, here's a link, you can call me and we'll mail you one. So that's just an extra step that people may not take.
So this is, well, this works. So the letter that you receive gives you the information to request a paper survey. What you're suggesting is like send a paper survey straight. Will any of this, like if you have this information, will any of the census tracts, or like you can tell me this census tract? Because again, like it's randomized.
Okay, that's fine. I think you just might lose people when you say, let me know if you want a paper survey and we'll mail it to you. When you add that extra step, you're gonna lose people.
No, that's what I'm asking you. But you see in the map of your locality, could you just tell me which census tract you want me to just mail the paper survey? Not right now, but like if I give you this information, would that be something you know, or somebody in your,
in all areas of the county, we try to mail things because some people don't have access to internet at all.
All county.
Some areas don't have internet access at all, and others cannot afford it.
Bent Mountain has poor internet. Oakville, Catawba. So we're a donut around the city, Salem, and Roanoke City. So
yeah, I understand. I totally understand. I'm with you. What I was trying to get at is because our samples are divided by census tracts.
Right.
What I wanted to know is if we look at the map together.
Yeah. Okay.
If you can help me, or I just say all Roanoke County, I'll just send paper surveys.
It's up to you how you'd like to address it. That's why we send out paper surveys and give the option to take it online. And we do get paper surveys back every time. Yeah. Especially older people who don't want to don't know what a QR code is, don't care. They would rather mail you something or bring it to the building. They've done that too. So it's just, that's what we
I
found.
mean, I think something we can look at, that's why we have this, but if you just say just for the county, maybe that's the best option.
That's up to our TPO members, but.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I'll have to check with our consultant on how the process is gonna work, but I will say we're here to accommodate. You know, we really wanna get a good response rate, so.
Yes, sir.
Who is the consultant this supporting?
Their name is PRR BIS. They're based out North of Virginia. They have actually worked with the Metropolitan Council of Governments on similar efforts, and they are a DRPT contractor. So that's how we were selected. We put the call out for this through the DRPT contractors. This project is funded by them.
Gotcha. One other question, I'm assuming they'll probably get at this, but I've been interested to see, especially with this being the state of the commute, how we might be able to get, we're trying to measure in different ways, but it'd be nice to get a response from those commuters, if you will, to see how virtual work options may have affected sort of the commuter and generalized sort of travel patterns. So I'm sure I hope the survey will delve into that.
Yes, we have a question about telecommute. I shared the survey at some point with members of VDOT.
Yeah.
You know, it's a 10-minute survey. We try to keep it as detailed but as high level as possible to get, so it's not really diving into the, you know, the trip by trip kind of more like what you imagine origin destination kind of survey, and it is also just like click, 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 click. You know, it's not asking anybody to write an essay. But yes, we talk about telecommute.
Yeah, my particular interest is we have seen a significant shift in the distribution of travel demand throughout the day. You know, we don't see the same demand. The peaks aren't as peaky. They're not as big of a peak. And in some communities, the peak is not even 7 to 9 anymore. It's shifted off of that. But I do think that is sensitive to socioeconomics. You know, certainly trades and skilled level jobs are much more hands-on. You have to go to work, so you got to make the commute. And then many of the other professions that, as you move through different roles and professions, we're seeing that there's a lot of folks that have more options to telework or shift hours and things of that nature. So it's offered an interesting dichotomy of changes in the traffic patterns over the last, since the pandemic in particular. So anyway, survey kind of responses, especially to the degree that we're really trying to get representation from different demographic groups as well as socioeconomic groups, that might give us some insights into those issues. So I appreciate it. Thank you. I guess the other is I know we'll try to match this up with information that we have from employers and shippers, you know, for freight, you know, because this is very commuter based.
Yes, kind of household. We're asking some questions about other kind of trips, like you know,
recreational trips.
Mostly just like like errand kind of trip related.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, thank you, Andrea. Good report. The next item we have is item 7B. Brian Hill's going to talk to us about carbon reduction program FY23 available and FY24 through 29 preliminary allocation. That's on page 58 if you want to review that. All 3 lines.
Okay. And thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll defer to Mr. Holmes for just a minute. I think we wanted to make some just some introductory comments before I get into my slides here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're very excited. Brian's going to get into the details of kind of the immediate and long-term plan of what to do with this money, but the TPO is very excited about this opportunity. This is a new source of funding above and beyond the other pots of money that this body works with, SDG, TA, so forth. So this is an additional layer that appears to be a short and long-term funding source. And we're committed to meeting both the kind of the rules of the program, but also the spirit of the program. It's called the Carbon Reduction Program. We think this is a great opportunity to support new and existing projects that have a real impact on carbon reduction. It's nice to have a new source of funding, so we're excited about the opportunity of doing new programs or expanding existing successful programs. Yeah, that said, we also are cognizant that we already do a lot of grant programs and funding programs, and we don't want to create an entire new process. Brian will kind of talk about this a little bit more, but we're not interested in creating a whole new level of how we make decisions on this. So we're committed to integrating this new source of funding into the things that the TPO and the TTC already do with the annual SDBG cycle and the T8 funding decisions. So to create the least amount of burden on the decision making for this, but the largest amount of opportunity to do what we feel is the spirit of this program to have a great impact on the region. So there's some immediate things that Brian's going to talk about, but I just want to kind of set the stage for what we're hoping that this will do in the future. Of course, there's work that has to be done with the TPO and the TTC to get there, but just to kind of set the foundation for what we would like to happen with the goals of this program. It's got a specific purpose. We're hoping as much as we can to make sure we meet that specific purpose, and I think it's a really good opportunity for the region to, like I said, do new things and to make sure that the best things that we've done that already have this positive impact continue to grow. So I just want to say that real quick, but Brian's really going to take over the meat of what this program looks like and what we will be doing in the short term, certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So let's just start at the beginning. The purpose of the carbon reduction program is to reduce transportation emissions through the development of state carbon reduction strategies and by funding projects designed to reduce transportation emissions. So as we're seeing, and as we briefed the board, I guess maybe a little more than a year ago, that the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was going to create a variety of different programs, and that you'd be seeing and hearing about them. Well, here's one of them. This was created and incorporated into federal law through the IIJA. Very similar to the way we incorporate federal performance measures. The state must develop a carbon reduction strategy first, and then the MPOs are of course encouraged, and in this case we would do nothing more than create a strategy just as the state does to follow such. The state's got a deadline of November 15th of this year to develop that. Of course, the guidance and encouragement is such that the MPOs would obligate their funding, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, toward projects that help the state's, the overall state strategy. So to align those, our strategy with the states is essentially the goal. As Christina talked about earlier, the Roanoke Valley Transportation Plan is the vehicle through which, pardon the pun, that we would see the housing of the CRP, the strategy, and we talk about a future date, but that would be sooner rather than later. So again, we'll coordinate with VDOT on that schedule. And timeliness. This is something that we've received guidance that FY23 and funds are available now, and that we would program 24 funds, and then we'll talk about the FY24 to 2029 SIP and how that is then programmed. The funds are then programmed there. So as Jeremy alluded to, and we've received guidance from our partners at VDOT that in the absence of a a strategy at this point, that we would want to look at existing projects in the Sector Improvement Program that have already been funded that that have in some way, shape, or form have either a cost overrun, a budget deficiency. There is some need for funding, and take a look at those and due to inflation or other issues, and then look at having those apply for these funds. And again, let's see, the third, these would be projects that we would be asking for projects that are again already funded, things that you all in the TTC have already seen, approved, and again, nothing new. So here's the draft budget we received from VDOT, and again, what we're looking at currently is to program the FY23 funds, and with the upcoming Sector Improvement Program cycle in FY24, the FY24 funds. So that works out to be, per this draft budget, $1,115,894 available to allocate currently. And as you can see, from starting in FY23 to 29, it gradually increases from 554,000 to just over nearly 620,000 annually, for a total of 4.09 million over the next 6 years. Again, we want to say that because there's no formalized carbon reduction program strategy at this point, in looking at the federal guidance, we looked at projects in our region that would be eligible under the current guidance, and we came up with essentially two different groups here: existing transportation alternatives projects and SDBG projects that are again in some need of additional money. So with that, and again, the timeliness is such that the Commonwealth Transportation Board would adopt the 6-year improvement program in May, and of course the new 6-year improvement program would be effective July 1. What we're proposing is an application window, a call for applications, beginning today through close of business on Friday, April, I believe that's Friday, the 7th of April. Please submit all those to me, and following this meeting, I will be sending all of you, as well as TTC members, a very simple, I promise, a very simple application, which will essentially ask a few questions about the reasons for the overrun of the additional funds, and just a brief explanation of the scope of the project, and how that you all feel that would help toward carbon reduction. Because we're looking at a 2-year allocation, the request, we would ask that your request be a maximum no more than the 1.11 million there that we've mentioned. And the idea is that the board would then receive those applications next month at their April 27th meeting, and then consider the allocations, and then forward those to VDOT for inclusion in the 24 to 29 SIP. And that, they say, is in a nutshell it. Are there any other questions? And if not, I would ask if Mr. King has any comments from the VDOT perspective.
I would make the comment that when you're programming funds that are available within the next 2 fiscal years, and you're looking to put them on projects that have funding needs, hopefully you put those on projects that are ready to move forward soon, right? So we don't want to put these next 2 fiscal year monies on projects that are in a planned implementation 6 years from now, because that only puts pressure under the TPO and eventually the Salem District for the fact that we have funds that aren't being spent that were allocated years ago. So I would certainly encourage that one of the criteria that the board, as well as I'm assuming the TTC, will probably look at the applications that came in. I think you didn't mention that in the process, but I would assume
We
the
haven't, but
TTC.
that's on
Yeah.
target for
So
that to happen
I would
next
certainly encourage the technical committee to really look at this issue of, which projects need the funds and which projects are poised to expend the funds in a timely manner.
Any, yes,
So Brian, could you give an example of a carbon reducing project?
I'll tell you, in looking at the eligibility, I would say an existing TA project, and again, I'm at a loss currently for those that are in need of funds, but any current transportation alternatives project that has not been completed, and conceivably any STBG project of that same status.
Any?
Yeah.
So, if I may ask a follow-up question, a project like the Elizabeth Greenway, which was a project that had requested an increase in funding based on conversations with City of Salem staff, sort of realized that they didn't need the money right now, but would likely need it this time next year and would come back for increased allocation for STBG. Would it then be eligible for this money instead and save the STBG money for something else? Something, to Ken's point, something that we know is going to move along within the next year?
I think that's the flaw in Elizabeth Greenway, is it's not quite gonna move on the timeline that Ken was suggesting.
I mean, if you want to put it on Walnut Avenue, I'll take it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. We did just review all the STBG projects with funding shortfalls. I guess my concern is throwing this out to TTC members without the guidance of what we've just reviewed. Is it possible to do a first blush of the projects that are ready in the plan to say these should be considered? Would you like to go after this project? I'm just, with the short time window, I don't want to throw it to a free-for-all for the next TTC meeting.
I think that you make a very good point. I think perhaps some, I'm going to use the H word, some homework might be in order for some of the TTC members to
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, yes, to please bring us those, and then we could consider and then make a recommendation.
Could you give us a little bit of a cheat sheet for our homework?
Yes.
Okay. Narrow it down.
Yes, will do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Felix,
I had, is Frank finished? I had one more. So the increases in STBG funding that were just approved 30 minutes ago, on projects that are either actively under construction, ready to either go out to bid, or have already gone out to bid and ready to award. Like, could we just shift the funding?
I was gonna jump in. As an alternative strategy, if you have an active project that has not started construction as of yet, double check them out. So it would have to be a project ready to go to construction, but not yet started, that meets, it's under the umbrella of projects that satisfy the carbon reduction program purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You could simply take this money, place it on that project, and relieve $1.15894 million of STBG money, and then you would have those funds unallocated and available for allocation and whatever cycle that flows ahead. So to meet like the immediate needs of the next 2 years, that certainly is a way to achieve that objective. Now, I wouldn't want to say that I can sit here and quote what projects satisfy all the carbon reduction, but you might imagine the types, pedestrian, bicycle, things that shift travel modes from vehicles to other modes that are non-carbon impacting, projects that improve the efficiency of the network. So there's even projects on, that are in the plan that deal with traffic signal improvements, intersection enhancements, things of that nature. Those are a little harder to do some work to show that, but there's a lot of projects that we have in the portfolio within the Roanoke TPO that fits that category. And certainly, we don't want, and I mentioned this, you put the 1.1 and free up the STBG funds. We wouldn't want those STBG funds to sit there for a long duration of time either. You would want to move forward with allocating those and keeping projects moving forward. So, the answer is yes, you could.
Would you define started? So like, a project that's...
It's already been awarded. If it's been awarded, you cannot do it.
What about a notice to award?
No.
Thank you, Ken.
Mr. Chairman, I think under the timeline and constraint that what gentleman from VDOT, Mr. King, just said probably makes the most sense and the most efficient way, rather than having a jump ball knocked down on, going after other projects and have a dynamic discussion. To me, the most efficient thing to do would be what you just mentioned, Cody. So I just leave that for those to think about that have to deal with this. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, the Explore Park Greenway, which we're going to add this year, we just asked for 1.275 million, which would satisfy the 1.1. If that works, then it's easy and it can be done.
That's just what we said.
Yeah, both the Walnut Avenue projects are already too far along based on that, so.
Yeah, I said award, it's probably advertisement, is the way the feds would look at it, that you haven't went to add yet with the project. And I keep pointing beyond your shoulder, excuse me, Mr. Holiday, to the VDOT, to my VDOT colleague in the back over there, making sure I'm not stepping off. But I think there are some projects that are in the, and I think the project that Ms. Cronice just referenced is a potential. And again, what you're doing here, of course, is satisfying the allocation of the carbon reduction funds so that it's that satisfied. And then you have simply an available balance or reserve of STBG money that's not at all uncommon for this board to deal with. And you would simply look to place those on projects that either can be accelerated or are in need of money to move forward. So I don't think there's any reason that could not be an approach. So.
Mr. Radford, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Really a higher level question. So it's always great to get federal funds. That's the author of these funds, correct? Because we've got to do the federal law. Where is the baseline where we've reduced the carbon? Is it zero? Is it where is it? Who's the architect of that? And so I'm just trying to find out, are we we're in the counties surrounding the cities, we have a lot of distance to travel with fossil fuel vehicles. So it seems like this type of program is gonna kind of encourage stuff that I'm hearing about greenways and so on and so forth, not really meant for highways and byways out in the counties.
I could help address some. So certainly, the carbon reduction program certainly can be transportation oriented. The reason I said it gets a little bit more tricky is things that you do, let's say for instance, you had a program that was going to do optimization of the traffic signal network, or maybe it's an investment in new technology that's going to be able to better detect traffic and more efficiently traverse those across the grid within a given area. Certainly carbon reduction, it satisfies that. The challenge gets into, when you look at that microscopically, not for that, but let's say we're adding a turn lane, right? It's gonna help reduce the congestion within that intersection. What we've learned over time is sometimes if what we're really doing is facilitating a longer and longer commute, the net effect over a larger regional area is we actually made the carbon problem greater, not less, because it would have been better to not encourage that longer and longer commute for that. We're going to do the commuter survey, for someone to move further and further out and have a longer and longer drive to work.
Right.
And so that's where I say it gets a little more tricky because as they look at these issues, they want to be able to show that the project, see that the project that you're doing is indeed having a net effect of carbon reduction. And there's a little bit more understanding that investments in transit, pedestrian, bicycle, especially last quarter mile, last mile connections and things of that nature tend to have a pretty good track record of having that, not at least having a negative effect, they have a positive effect over time. I did my best with that, so, yes, sir.
Would electrification or creating charging stations, would that fall under?
Yeah, that's specifically referenced in some, and matter of fact, part of the emphasis of this particular program under the current presidential administration.
So,
Okay.
so there's really not a baseline. It's just an overall philosophy.
Well, for this program that came out of the current administration, I can't speak to all the details of that because it may have some very specific goals within the current administration's program goals. The general program of improving carbon reduction, air quality, and the like has got a long history within metropolitan planning organizations. You may, some of you may recall our early action compact to stay short of being a non-attainment area for air quality. We were one of those metropolitan areas that's kind of on the cusp. When you go to Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads, they are non-attainment areas and they have to go through a lot of extra analysis work to be able to show that their actions they're taking are not exacerbating that problem. We went through some specific actions here in the Roanoke Valley to avoid being in that non-attainment group. So when you think about the objectives that are in this, they have a very long history. But this particular program, particular fund source, I can't speak to all the specifics of what might be.
Okay. I have a question. You were talking about traffic signals, traffic lights. What about the construction of roundabouts, replacing traffic signals? Is that something that?
It certainly can be, yes. But again, it gets back to you have to do probably have to do some analytical work to show that roundabout is going to function more efficiently, than the current network, right?
All right, anyone else have any questions, remarks, or suggestions? Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we will go to agenda item number 8, which is comment period by any of the members in here or anyone from the public. Are there any questions or comments? Comment, yes, sir.
Yeah, I wanted to share with the TPO today, as a member of the I-81 Advisory Commission, we received some news March 1st. Secretary Miller, Governor Youngkin, a group of interested state delegates, and the Commonwealth Transportation Board members on February 22nd got together to discuss improvements along I-81. Delegate Austin, who is chair of transportation, but also chair of the I-81 Advisory Committee, writes that the timeline to complete the current identified targeted improvements along the 81 corridor is such that the Commonwealth will always be playing catch up with the interstate's constantly evolving capacity needs. There was general agreement in the room that other options should be considered, and that a public-private partnership would be the most viable option to address capacity needs in a timely, cost-effective manner. The governor originally included $500,000 for this purpose in the current budget that has not been passed yet, that is under consideration, and the General Assembly will deal with that when they return April the 12th. And because of that, Delegate Austin writes to Secretary Miller asking him to begin budget negotiations as they continue, that the needs of 81 are urgent, and has asked that the consensus among all participants in that meeting was to move forward expeditiously using existing VDOT resources and an independent third-party consultant to study the issue sooner than later. And so as this evolves on, I'll keep you posted, but that's all I have today. And maybe Mr. King might have something to add to it. I don't think he wanted to touch that political hot potato, did you? I didn't think so. Thank you.
I just had a question for Mr. North. What would the public-private partnership do?
Well, that's a great question.
Okay.
There's been some rumor that it would expand lane capacity. There's been even some mention that I heard as a rumor that it might involve some kind of tolling purposes. Let me give you an example of what I learned yesterday when my youngest son moved to North Carolina. He went to transfer and get his plates. They charge $200 or $250 flat fee to anybody moving in for road use. And so his bill was like over $650 for a little Subaru. But that's one way they get money to help fund projects, not because there's been a big influx of people moving in the Carolinas. And there are other things they do, like bonding. They do more bonding than we do with their roads. That's why their road network is probably stronger today than ours in some places. So it could be a menu of different things to consider. So we'll have to wait and see what that consultant's report tells us. But I can tell you this, that the governor, and of course, as the Secretary of Transportation, he takes his orders from the governor. They want to get something done on 81 sooner than later. And so this is what's pushing this energy and this effort towards this public-private partnership, which could evolve into what I mentioned earlier, passing lanes, expansions to 3 lanes, and could mean some type of a tolling operation. Not sure about that. So we'll see.
Yes, sir.
One announcement, as you know, the 6-year improvement program public hearing that occurs and moving up to the Commonwealth Transportation Board's action adopting the projects to be added, which this year will be the Smart Scale Round 5 projects. Our date and time have been set for May the 16th at 4 p.m. at the Salem Civic Center. As I was looking at that, I wrote my number down so poorly, and I want to make sure that it was actually the 16th. And it is, yeah, May 16th at Salem Civic Center at 4 p.m. So you may want to mark the calendar. There'll be obviously advertisements going out shortly, about that upcoming opportunity for public comment with the Commonwealth Transportation Board members, as well as Secretary of Transportation and other VDOT folks there.
Okay. Mr. Lee, we haven't heard from you today.
Well, I try to keep quiet when I don't have anything to say. I may have missed this, and I apologize. It didn't seem like an appropriate time at the end of Christine's discussion to bring it up. But we did, as the representative of the TPO on the Greenway Commission, we had some interesting discussion at our meeting yesterday, evolving from several topics, but basically talking about our mid-cycle review of our strategic plan and our wanting to do some updating of that. And the discussion led towards the fact that we are in our work program process here at the Commission and the TPO, and that there may be some implications, and those requests would need to come to this group eventually, although it also goes through to the Commission itself. So I don't know if that was brought up in any of your discussion. It's not as evident unless it's a specific project, like one of the Greenway projects that was in the plan, as to what funding would be needed. This is more staff level support, and usually we don't see that until we get closer to the end. But just wanted to advise you all that that is something that we're looking at doing, and that we will appreciate any support that the Commission can provide in that process.
Thank you, sir. Okay, are there any more comments, remarks, questions? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
You made the motion, second, okay. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned, thank you.